Hi, everybody. This is Bob Ost. It's the Theater Resources Unlimited's weekly community gathering. It's actually our last community gathering before the holidays. We're going to take off for Christmas and New Year's. I'm told that people do things on those days, and I want to be one of those people. But we're going to be back on January 7th, so I just want everybody to know that I'll miss you for the holidays. You can always email me. We can always chat on email. But I do look forward to seeing you in the new year. Um, we've been talking and talking and talking now for 80. I think this is week 84. April 17th, 2020. I finally stopped fretting about what I'm going to do with my company now that we can't meet live, and I entered the world of Zoom, kicking and screaming, but nevertheless I did enter it. So I stopped fretting about all that, and finally opened up a Zoom room on Fridays so that people could get together and talk to each other and feel less isolated. So it's been more successful than I would have expected. We have a very hardy community of members, of producers and writers and directors, theater professionals who meet and get together every week. And I'm honored to be able to play host to them. The conversations have been changing. They started off talking about, oh my God, what do we do now that we're in isolation? Then we moved into, Zoom is a medium of its own. Maybe we should learn how to use Zoom. And then we started talking about other things like podcasts and radio plays and things that didn't require being in a room with other people. And then we started coming out of this. Some people were a little bit reckless about coming out of COVID and going into live situations. We thought we were through. We thought we were done with all this, and now Omicron is with us. And as a lot of you may know, about 6 or more Broadway shows had to close for like a day or two because of people that were testing positive, even after the vaccination, even after getting 2 vaccines and a booster, you can still sometimes get this. So the good news about that is the likelihood of illness is reduced greatly, and the likelihood of severe illness has almost disappeared for most people, except for people that are extremely vulnerable. So we're thankful for that. But we're still tiptoeing into live theater. I've seen 2 Broadway shows, and I saw an off Broadway show last night. So I'm being brave with double masking. I use 2 masks when I go out, and I'm very, very cautious. And for the sake of our business, for the sake of the health of our business, I'm just hoping that people can find a balance so that they can enjoy theater, they can support shows that are out there, and also be safe and cautious and protect themselves. So here we are in the holiday season, and boy, do I sound ho, ho, ho. But we're going to talk today about Christmas shows, because we got 2 people here who have developed the Christmas shows. If I'm not mistaken, one is doing live performance, and I think, Jim, you'll tell me this for sure. I think right now you're more focused on streaming Zoom presentations. So let's meet you guys. Both friends of mine. Actually, Stephanie is more than a friend; she's a board member. So Stephanie, say hi to everybody and tell us a little bit about who you are and what your background is, and then after I introduce Jim, we'll talk about your shows.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Rosenberg. I'm a Tony Award-winning Broadway producer, Moulin Rouge, Anastasia, On the Town, Matilda, just to name a couple. I also am a writer. I'm also an actress. It's actually how I started out in the industry. I also direct. I'm definitely a multi-hyphenate on my show, Santa's Sing-Along, that's running at Theater Row from December 18th through the 23rd after a Northeastern tour. And we also have a production running in Philadelphia on the weekends, closing this Sunday on the 19th.
And I'm just going to check it. Is my background not backwards anymore?
It's too small for me to
Still
read.
backwards.
Still backwards,
Still backwards.
but it doesn't matter. You can tell what it is.
I
It's
know,
still
but I'm going on YouTube. I wanna look professional on YouTube. Oh, there's the guy with the backwards background. Anyway,
Bob, if
Jim,
that's what they're noticing, then our conversation isn't stimulating enough. So-
well, I just want True to look good, so because I'm background with True, so I want to be able to see Theater Resources Unlimited, so that they know who we are. Jim Semmelman, I know you
Yes.
for many years now. You've been a great help, great supporter of True over the years. You've even stage managed things for us, like our benefit. So tell us more about yourself, because I know that you are also a writer.
Sort of like Stephanie, I started as an actor, then went into directing and choreography, and then started stage managing on Broadway first, and then got into television with the Today Show for about 13 years. I'm doing Nick Cannon's new talk show right now. And my sister and I had opened a dessert theater in St. Louis called Cabaret a la Mode. And it was there that I was approached by a department store to develop a way of selling and pitching this little guy who's Mooseltoe. This is the original Mooseltoe. And I created a musical about it. And
I just want everybody to note that we have the original Mooseltoe with us today. So I'm very honored. Thank you, Jim. It's exciting.
So we initially did the show for underprivileged kids at their major markets in Indianapolis, Dallas, Chicago, and St. Louis. And then when I moved to New York, my partner and I decided we wanted to expand the show. And we did, and we got a lot of Broadway performers. Al Roker narrated it. And we toured for over 20 years. And then
so I'm going to stop you because I want to find more about your shows after I find out more about you. So tell us a little bit about what else you do besides Mooseltoe. We'll get to Mooseltoe.
Well, I mean, my career basically is stage managing in television.
That's what I was trying to get
to. After having a Broadway career-ish, and then got into television and had no clue that was going to be my career, but that's how things ended up, which is great. I've had a very blessed career.
And so the next question I have to you is, when did you decide you wanted to be a writer, and when did you start writing?
I never had any intention of being a writer. This literally fell into my lap. They asked me again for me to develop some sort of idea to sell this toy. And I said, I'll do a show. I'll create a show about it. And I started writing the book, all in rhyme, and the lyrics. And my partner back then was George Kramer. He wrote the music. And we were very lucky. We already had a venue to do our show. And from there, I've written a couple of other musicals, one of which is Brushstrokes, which we have re-scored the entire show. So it just kind of happened.
Okay, we'll go back to that because I think we have a lot of writers here, and a lot of writers have ideas for Christmas shows, and maybe we can find some things to share that would help them understand what viable paths are for them to take. Stephanie, where did Santa's sing-along come from?
Oh my God, where did it come from? So I'm somebody who, this is a joke I often tell, is like, oh, I have a good idea every 10 minutes. My problem is I don't have enough money and a big enough team to execute all of my ideas. And it literally came out of a conversation with my significant other that I said, well, I have this idea for a Christmas show. It just had bounced around in my head. And he said it was a really good idea and that I should put pen to paper and see what came of it. And so that's how I started writing it. I'm somebody who's always been a storyteller, but I did go through like a period, I think like most writers do. Like I was in high school and I had one of those terrible English teachers, the one who just totally crushes your soul. You can never write well enough for. Well, it really messed me up. And it was about 4 years that I put my pen down. And I just was like, well, I'm not a writer. I don't do that anymore. And it wasn't until I got into college, I had a really wonderful professor named Maggie Lally, and I had a history teacher I could not get through one of his reports. And I said, okay, how about this? What if I turn this book, this classic book, into a play? Will you let me pass your class if
It's
I
so
do
funny,
that?
Stephanie. I had no idea we had so much in common. I usually don't get anecdotal, but I have to tell you that I wrote my first play when I was 14, and the drama company, the drama club at my school, the head of it loved the play, and he actually put it on for the entire school. So I was this kid who had a 14-year-old this play produced for the school in the auditorium. My English teacher, when we had done an essay test of some sort, he called me up in front of the room, and in front of the entire class, he shows them my paper. He says, C+. He thinks he's a writer, but he can't write an essay. So I totally...
I'm right with you there. Mine was I had written this beautiful paper on Martha Graham, who was like one of my personal heroes. I just think she's an amazing woman. And this English teacher who just had no heart, just like embarrassed me in front of the whole class and made sure to point out everything that I did wrong and not acknowledge one thing that I did right, which just made me feel like I was completely incompetent as a writer, and plus embarrassed me in front of my peer group. So why would I ever try in front, in a situation that would put myself in front of my peer group again? So it really, Maggie Lally was really a great support in college, as well as Nick, oh God, names are so tight today. Nick Petron, the head of Adelphi University. That's where I went to college. They were very supportive of me writing. And then when I got to the Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater, the very famous fight choreographer, who I love to call a friend, is Rick Sordelay. He even said to me, he's like, Stephanie, you're going to need to write for yourself. He's like, you're just, the way you type as an actor, you're going to have to create your own stuff. And Santa Sing-Along is something that I thought would be a great, fun Christmas idea, and I could reinvent Mrs. Claus and create a role for myself. And I thought, well, I can never age out of Mrs. Claus. She can just age with me. It'll be lovely.
So
I can have as much
tell
fun
us a
with
little
her.
bit about the play. So tell us a bit about the show. How is it structured? What is it? Is it a book musical?
I would say more of a concept musical. Here's the whole show. Are you ready? It's really easy and it's really fun. Oh no, Santa's reindeer lost their Christmas spirit and refused to fly. We have to sing Christmas carols to help them get it back again. And after each number, we pick a kid, whether it's a little kid or a big kid, to be that reindeer. That is the whole concept of the show. It is a great time. We share, I share facts about different Christmas things in between, like, when was Rudolph's first flight is something we talk about. Do you know where Frosty, like I talk about where Frosty the Snowman originally came from, and that they still do a Frosty the Snowman parade there every year.
But it is scripted. It is scripted.
It's absolutely scripted. Yes.
So let's contrast that for a second with Jim. So Jim, you had a moose. You had a stuffed moose, and you formatted it into a musical. How do you make a moose into a musical?
I just came up with a story that this is a moose who wanted to fly with Santa's reindeer, and his family is not very supportive of this, although his mother is sympathetic and says, I think you need to seek out and find the great wise Moose King and ask him how to fly. And so he goes out on an adventure, on a quest, meets all these different characters along the way. He eventually learns a secret on how to fly and saves Christmas.
And is this based on life experiences?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. It's real. Actually, it's real. Of course it is.
As I watched it and heard some of the dialogue that I had written, I went, oh my God, this is my own life. Well, anyways, there are parallels to my own life in my little story.
Hopefully, when any of us write, there are parallels to who we are and where we've been. I think that's how we write. So let's talk about the path. Jim's, yours is a longer path, because how long ago did you first write this show?
Honestly, back in the late 80s is where it started.
So this is a very old moose.
A very old author.
So what was the path that you took? We might be talking about two different worlds because maybe in the '80s things were may have been a little easier than now, or a little different than now. But let's just look at what you did, the steps you took, and I'm going to go to Stephanie next and talk about the steps she took to get this up.
Well, I mean, after we had done it for this department store, and we came to New York and expanded it, a gentleman who had been had booked another show of mine. I again, going back to this cabaret a la mode, which is a dessert theater that my sister and I started. I had created a show there called SRO, Standing Room Only, which was a Broadway review that toured at our theater, and then when our theater closed, it toured all over the country. And this same gentleman loved Mooseltoe as well. So when we expanded it, I took it to him and said, "Hey, can you help me book this?" And he did. He was my booking kind of agent out of St. Louis, a place called Main Stage Management. And he booked it literally all over the country, up into Canada, for many, many years. Eventually, Columbia Artist Management took over, but that was very, very recently. And then COVID hit, and we were kind of out of luck. When I finally got Columbia Artists involved in this, COVID came about, and then things kind of fell apart a little bit.
But would you say that it didn't really take you 40 years to get Columbia? I mean, you had two different. Was this a constant journey from 1980 on?
There was a stopping point for many years until I moved to New York in '89, and so around 1990, 91 is when we started redeveloping the show and expanding it. And it actually wasn't until the mid '90s that I got all the Broadway performers to do the voices and Al Roker to do the narration, because at that time I was then working on the Today Show. Again, I was very fortunate. I'd done Barrymore with Christopher Plummer, and he provided the voice of the Moose King. Faith Prince I'd gone to school with, so she did a voice. I did Chicago, and Jimmy Naughton did the voice of one of my people. So again, everybody was really generous, and Karen Mason and all these wonderful people, Carol Shelley, who I'd done a show with as well, and they all came forward and they did the voices for all the characters. So it's all very Broadway voiced.
And when were all these things recorded? And because now I don't know whether I'm leading you in the right direction or not, because I want to get to the fact that streaming musicals now is offering it, and that you're alive and well during the holiday season right now because your show is up there and out there.
Right. This is the first time that has happened. Again, Gary McAvey with Columbia Artists, but Columbia Management closed. Gary took it over and started booking. He was unable really to get we were trying to do it for school groups, which we have done Mooseltoe many times for third graders. We give the book out and they come see the show, and we do a Q&A after the show. So we thought, oh, this is great. We'll stream it. We'll offer it out to school groups. Everybody's going to want this. They're going to show it in the schools, and we'll give them the books. And we have a whole plan, an educational plan, all mapped out. The teachers can have it. Nothing. Crickets. Gary could not sell it right now because all these theaters still don't know what they're doing. They don't know where their money's coming from. They don't know if their patrons will pay to watch something. So Streaming Musicals got involved through the guy who videotaped, or rather shot, Mooseltoe this past July.
I'm sorry, is that your dog? Jim, is that your dog? And then there's nothing we can do. Okay, good, fine. No, it's fine. It's fine.
They'll go outside in a second. So we shot it. We did a 6-camera shoot at a theater in Patchogue in July. And we added all kinds of green screen effects and special effects to it, which I've been wanting to do for the longest time. So it turned out really, really well. It's a really cute thing now. And we've offered it up on Streaming Musicals. I've been trying to get the word out to get people to either gift it, watch it, whatever. So it's really is going to keep the show alive in perpetuity.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. Stephanie, you were somebody, you position yourself as a producer. I mean, just be honest about it. You actually position yourself very well and very professionally as a producer. In fact, in this situation, you're a self-producing artist because this is this is the piece that you created. So do you mind if I out you?
Sure, out me. But look, I do have a producing partner on it. Otherwise, I don't think I could get it all done.
So talk about that. Let's hear about that.
So I have a producing partner. Cooper Jordan of Cooper Jordan Entertainment is my partner on this show.
Of course he is. He's an old friend of ours. Of course he is.
And he's been amazing. He's been really such a shoulder to lean on and great counsel at every turn. And we wouldn't have a run at Theater Row. We wouldn't have had a Northeastern tour if it really wasn't for his efforts and his research. And I mean, like, he booked shows all over the country.
Let's take this one step at a time. You had the idea for the show. You wrote the show. Did you do any development on it before you decided it was ready for an audience?
Yes, but not a lot. So basically, I called my friend who was our very first Santa, Alpha the Third, great actor. Look him up. He's also a fight choreographer. Please hire him. He's wonderful. And I said to him, I go, look, I had this idea for a Christmas show. I know that you are oh, hi, whoever just joined us.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
It's okay. I said to him, I go, I know you're a professional Santa. I believe he used to Santa. I forget if it was at Lord and Taylor or Bloomingdale's, but I knew he was a professional Santa during the holidays. And I said, I wrote this show. Would you mind, if we did a reading together? And, if you like it, I would love for you to be my Santa. I want to put it up this season. And so we got together and we read through it. And he was like, this is adorable, because it's very fun and very just everybody has a good time. I wrote it so everyone could have a good time. I don't care if you're there with your friends who are Jewish or Muslim or any other faith, you're going to have a good time. It is all just very, very standard Christmas carols that anyone can enjoy. So he was like, yeah, let's do this. And so we developed it kind of the come from away model. We've been developing it in front of the audiences because since this is an interactive show, without that character to the audience, it's hard to tell what's next. Like, so one of my very first, like, oh, I have to go back and rewrite a script was we put it up in 2019. We had like a sold out house almost every night. It was a very small venue on the East Side called Club Bonafide. It did not come back after the pandemic. It is one of the many unfortunates, but it was a 70 seat room and we had full houses. And we found out that when I was asking kids questions, I made the questions too hard. I had made these Christmas facts too Christmassy and people didn't know the answer. So I quickly went back and was rewriting and was giving new pages and was like, okay, so we're gonna just share these things as like fun facts that we love instead of asking the audience at these moments, and move them around a little bit and shifted the script as we were doing performances. And it worked, and it was easier to figure out what was working or not in that way, only because the nature of the show is so involved. You're with Santa and Mrs. Claus the whole time. And even for this year, I spent part of the time of the pandemic, I did go back to the script and rework again, because I knew as we went into bigger houses, we would need another character. We would need a whole nother character to make this show work, because Santa and I can only go so far into a house. And as we got into bigger houses, we would need somebody who can help assist with families in the back, families in a balcony, so that no one felt left out. No one felt like, oh, I couldn't afford the expensive seats, so I didn't get to have an interaction with anybody. So I created this character called Mr. Christmas, and his whole purpose there is to help us help the audience enjoy. He is the MC for me. I am the MC for Santa. Santa's the star, because let's be honest, people are there to see Santa. So he's a wonderful character. He's very silly. He's like a big kid who's just like hopped up on sugar, having a great time. And he's a wireless mic, and he goes around, and so he'll ask people questions. He'll hold up a mic as a kid's singing to have them join in loud. He works the balcony. So it's, and I wrote the character, we called it Mr. Christmas, but I intend when we get to the point that it gets published, which hopefully will come one day, to have a note there that this character can be any sex. It's just Mr. Christmas because the person we're working with happens to be male. It's not gender specific. It could be Ms. Christmas. It could just be character you want to call them Christmas that year.
Or it could be Christmas.
Christmas. Yeah. So I mean, it's just supposed to be a person who embodies what it is to be a child at Christmas.
So I want to take a step backward, because basically, I don't know if you noticed about me over the years, but when I do my panels, instead of anecdotal things, what I try to do is find information that people can use in terms of, okay, this is how you do it. This is how she did it. This is something that I can try too. So let's see. You started developing it in this small theater space, and at what point did Cooper come on board?
He came on board right at the beginning. I had told him about it, and he was like, he made the introduction to the 70-seat space for us so that we had a theater. So yeah, he's been on board since the beginning.
So Jim, let me ask you, at what point were you always self-producing, or did you have anybody who came in and took some of the producing responsibilities from you? I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I was pretty much self-producing. Paul Allen at Gateway is now my co-producer. He came on board about 4 years ago.
So let's get to that step. Okay, so you started off with a moose doll, and then it became a musical, and then you started doing it in schools and other places.
No, we did it all in theaters.
All in theaters, okay. School groups, okay.
And mostly at Gateway. We did this mostly at Gateway in Bellport.
But Gateway wasn't. But Gateway was 30 years later, because you were doing something with the show until then. At what point did you realize that the next step was Gateway?
Well, when we started touring, Gateway was one of our first people that brought the show to their theater. So we've been touring for over 20 years. I have actors that have been with my show in these character costumes for over 20 years.
Can you guess the question I'm going to ask? Can you guess it? How did you create your tours?
Again, through this gentleman who was in main stage management in St. Louis. He booked it. He was linked with all these different theaters. He'd been touring other shows, like Columbia Artist Management. It's the same kind of thing, but on a smaller scale. And he loved the show. And he went to the conventions and to the all of those kinds of things. And he booked the show for me.
Is this the sort of thing you've ever brought to APAP, Association of Producers and Presenters?
I think that Terry Kippenberger from Main Stage Management, I think he used to go to those things. Yes, I did not.
I'm actually working on getting APAP to be with us on one of the Fridays to talk about what they do. So you were producing, but you had somebody booking for you, which is a huge help.
Right. So I directed, choreographed, wrote the book and lyrics, and co-produced it. And then I would start the show up each holiday season and send it on its way on its whatever tour we were doing that year. We usually were out for anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks.
And you were being paid for this, right? Yes? No. Okay. These are things that people need to know.
Yeah, we broke even, and maybe I made 102 or so. I mean, this is a love project of mine more than I'm hoping with streaming musicals, and at this point forward, we may actually start making some money. I mean, I created the book after the show was written, because all of a sudden I said, "Oh, we should do a book with the show and sell it, in the lobby." And so I created the book, and I self-published this, Bob. I got it to Amazon.com, and we've done very well with it.
Stephanie, you as producer, you as writer, what was it? Did Cooper come in and he take care of all of the booking and everything? Because you have the show booked right now.
Yeah.
Tell us where you've played and where you're going to be playing.
Oh my goodness. So we've had a run in Philadelphia. And it actually started with a performance in Atlantic City and then went to Philadelphia. And
Now, Cooper has connections in Atlantic City, if I recall.
Yeah, Cooper has a showroom in Atlantic City, and I've come on as like it's first year I was the creative director for it. So like, because we've been working together for a while, we really work well together professionally. And that was in 2018 or 2019? It was before I was creative director for the showroom that he had, Boardwalk showroom, before I wrote the Christmas show. And so then it was easy. Like when I wrote the Christmas show, I said to him, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And he was like, "This is a great idea." He goes, "There's a theater that might be great for this." And I was like, "Okay, great." I was like, "Okay, great. We'll just do it. We'll see what happens." And we did it. And we made money the first year. I mean, not enough that like, you're gonna live a whole year off of, but we made money the first year where I paid my Santa. I had money that I could recoup my investment, in, because there was cost for like merch, there was cost for like Christmas decorations, there was cost for like a screen, because since we're a sing-along show, we have videos. There was cost for the video creation, for people to sing along. So there was some cost to recoup, and I was able to recoup the cost and have a little profit, which was like fantastic for a first year, and you're developing it as you're doing it. I mean, it was really, really fantastic to do. But then, yeah, since Cooper has connections, he produces shows all across the country. He was able to support us with a Northeastern tour this year, and helped us get into Philadelphia and helped us get into Theater Row. So yeah, because
I saw your schedule. There's a couple of other places besides Philadelphia. I swear I saw them on your schedule.
Yes, our Northeastern tour was up in Massachusetts. We were in Amesbury, Massachusetts, Peabody, Massachusetts. We were in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, which had to have been my favorite show, just because it's a whole story. I'll tell you in a second after I go through the places. Then we played the Coho's Music Hall in Albany, which is a beautiful theater. If you have not had a chance to play that room.
How big are these places? How many seats?
They vary. So Amesbury is very small. It's similar to what we played year one. It was like 70 seats, maybe less, I think 65. Peabody was bigger. I want to say that was 130, something like that. It's over 100 seats. Woonsocket, Rhode Island, that was 120, and we sold that place out. That was awesome. Just awesome. It was like being in a rock concert. I'll have to tell you all about it in a second, because it was just so cool. Coho's is about 400 seats, and we played that 2 nights because we had been selling so well. The first night they actually asked us to stay and do another night, which is always like, you're like, yay, yes, let's do that. We're here. We already have hotels. Why not? And then we played Scranton, because my mom's originally from Pennsylvania in the Scranton area. And when we were looking at where to route next, I said to him, I was like, hey, can we work in Scranton? Because I'd love to invite distant cousins and play like something that feels like, Christmas. Because when it was Christmas time, we'd always go to my mom's folks. So it'd be kind of like going back to Christmas for me. So we did.
This raises a couple questions for me. Obviously, you're able to do this non-equity. Am I right? So that it probably makes it extremely much easier to do. Jim, you have been touring it probably non-equity, but you have top-notch equity people who have recorded for you.
Right. I mean, and because of the size of our show is much more like a small Broadway show. So we had to have a bigger spaces than what Stephanie's talking about. So we were playing, like some major theaters, anywhere from 400 seats to 2,000 seats, because we needed this space on the stage for our set. And these costumes are gigantic. I mean, these are all like Disney character costume type stuff. So we needed venues, fortunately and unfortunately, that could house our show. So we couldn't go in just any location.
Okay, so R.K. Green mentions that from a commercial standpoint, there's only a short window during the year that a holiday show can run profitably. On the other hand, these shows are perennial on an annual basis. How do you
Right.
balance the two from an investment standpoint? He asks it much better than I was going to.
It's tough. We had investors who put some money into the show. They got paid back. They've never made a profit, but they did get paid back. Me as again, in my position, I never really made money. In fact, Gateway still owes me some money right now. But it is tougher. He's absolutely right. I always said you could probably run these things from from Thanksgiving to New Year's is kind of the window. Generally, our tours were 1 to 6 weeks. We never got booked long enough to really make a profit. But again, the size of our venues did allow it to get profitable at a certain level.
So let me just get into some nitty gritty here. So there's different ways of doing booking tours. Sometimes you just four-wall it. Basically, you come into a space and you pay for the space, and you pay for your expenses and you do your show there, and then you usually get whatever the ticket sales are. Sometimes the space will ask for some percentage of the ticket sales, but that's another scenario where people will pay you to come into their space. Or give you a guarantee. So can you talk a little bit about the different models that you used?
We did all of those. We did a split of the door. They brought us in and they had to provide housing and 1 meal a day.
So my question to you is, this is a tough question, but did you only break even and not make money because you weren't asking for enough?
Couldn't get enough, probably is more
Okay.
to it. We made enough to pay. We paid the actors nice salaries. We had a stage manager, we had a company manager, we had our tech that traveled with us. We traveled on a bus, so you have the expenses of a bus, you have the expenses of insurance, all that stuff. So it is tough. There's no question about it.
Okay.
It's tough. We would get bookings 1 and 2 performance. We would sometimes do 2 performances a night, or sometimes in the afternoon and in the evening. And so we gave people a deal for that.
What one specific? I don't think we mentioned. How many people in your cast?
That's another problem. We had 12 in the cast, so it was a fairly big show. And again, it had a good amount of scenery. Initially, we flew stuff. We changed the set so that it didn't have to fly anywhere. It could be set down. It was like a storybook sets that opened and turned, and like a pop-up book.
Do you think it's possible to rethink it for a smaller cast, for like 8 maybe? I think TheaterWorks, for instance, which tours all the youth shows around the country, I think they have a limit to how many people that they can have in a cast. It may actually be.
We doubled and tripled cast as it was. So I don't know if I can get it down. I'm not sure I could get it down to 8.
And I'm wondering, is this a situation, Stephanie, you as a producer might know as well, Jim and Stephanie, is this a situation where, even though you've been doing this for all these years, do you think this is something that a youth theater might take on as being one in their repertory? Can you license it? Have you tried licensing it?
I got it up to one licensing company. They were interested, and then they weren't. And I haven't actually gone any further than that, and I probably should. And yes, I think this is something that could be rethought and reimagined differently than I did, as not in giant costumes, but more actors with just more Lion King-ish, so that you see the people and maybe just suggestions of what the creatures are that they are. So yes, I think it could be done in a less expensive and more possibly profitable way.
Question also: if I were to make you a co-host, do you have a picture of the show that you could bring up and screen share with us?
Are you?
And doesn't have to be what?
Are you able on your thing just to bring up Mooseltoe.com?
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay.
Because then you can see everything. You can see the streaming musicals link. You can see the link to the book. You can see a 3-minute clip of the show, a sizzle reel, still photos.
Oh, good Lord. My computer's giving me a hard time. I'll try again. I wound up with TD Bank. Don't ask me how. If I could find one shot, let's see.
If you got the family living room where Mooseltoe's in the front and his parents and the sister in the back.
Well, let me see if I can just show everybody a shot from the page, which of course everybody could actually go to the website. But this is the size that you're talking about. Is this the moose?
That's the moose. And then this is the house opened up. It folds in, and then behind the penguins, you see the thing behind them. That's a giant puppet. That's eyes open, the mouth moves. That's the Moose King, and that's Christopher Plummer's voice.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So, who made these costumes?
Randy Carfagno, who's local, and a kid who was actually in the show also made a lot of the costumes, and then a puppet shop made the giant puppet. And that didn't get added till a few years down the road. We initially did it as a projection, which just did not work. And I always had envisioned that it would be this giant thing. And again, it sits there the whole show. You think it's a mountain, then all of a sudden the eyes open, antlers come up behind it, and the mouth starts moving. And so this giant puppet turns it into the Moose King.
So
It's a great special effect.
I was going to say everybody has their chandelier, huh? So,
exactly.
Okay.
We're lucky because we're much nimbler. I mean, with being a cast of 3, and we do have we have Santa's throne, we have, all of those things, because at the end of the show, one of the things we do offer is pictures with Santa on stage, which is a big sell for a lot of people. And that comes with VIP tickets and can be bought at an additional cost for others. We're much more nimble in that way, but it's this season was challenging to find Santas. So I actually had to, I was searching the internet because my Santa, wonderful Alpha the Third, was available this season for a multitude of reasons. So I ended up finding the New England Santa Society and booking a ticket to their dinner in Connecticut. I then drove 3 hours to arrive at this dinner where people looked at me like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm a Mrs. Claus. I have a Christmas show and I need a Santa. And I walked literally into a room with like—
Bob, I will be right back. Just give me 1 second. I gotta do something real quick.
Okay. So Stephanie, it's just you and me now.
Oh, there we go, Bob. Hey, we got this.
So your production values are a little more affordable. So your profit margin, I would think, would be a little bit easier than Jim's with his show.
I mean, like, look, we have merch. We do have the throne. We do have set to move around. We do a lot of pipe and drape depending on the space that we're in. We do travel with a sound system just in case, because some of the venues we're at, like the venue in Woonsocket, basically we transform that. It's this wonderful room, but we transform it into a dinner theater. And it was a fantastic place to play because everyone was so excited. I had never seen anyone bum rush Santa and Mrs. Claus so hard. I thought these kids were going to pull down the set. The kids were a little wild. Like, I came up and we have these beautiful blow up ornaments. And I come up first before Santa and I start greeting audience. And there's kids bouncing some of the ornaments that are blown up. And I'm like, okay, Santa won't stay on Santa's good list. Leave the set alone. Don't pull down the pipe and drape.
So maybe don't serve them sugar during the show. Maybe. Or
maybe watch your kids pre-show. But they were so cute, and like they were on top of us for the show. Like this place only had a small platform, and we had piped and draped the whole thing beautifully. And those kids were like right there. But it was the most exciting and most thrilling experience because they were all hyper engaged. They were all so excited. Everyone was just so happy that Santa was in the room. And I found this Santa at the New England Santa Society's dinner up in Connecticut. And a bunch of Santas that night have given me their cards. And then I had Santa auditions. And it's a different world when you're working with professional Santas versus professional actors who are Santa. It's a very different vibe. But this year, every Santa you're seeing, whether you came to Philadelphia, the tour, or even here in New York, they are professional Santas first and actors second. So you as an actor on stage have to have an extra amount of awareness. And as a producer and director, you have to have a lot of extra patience, kindness, make sure these guys feel confident and safe in what you're doing, because you want to make sure they show up, So
let's explain to Emma. She wants to know, does non-equity mean actors are non-professional, paid less? They're not members of equity, so that you don't have to follow equity rules. Now, there's nothing wrong with equity rules. It's just that they tend to become very expensive, rightfully so in many cases. But when you go non-equity, you have a lot more freedom in terms of what you can and can't do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Stephanie? Why you're doing this non-equity rather than equity?
We're doing it non-equity for sure. Yeah. It was simpler this year for us, especially since we knew we were gonna have to pursue professional Santas and not professional actors, because we put out a call to actors and didn't get a lot of responses. So we were like, all right, professional Santas, here we come. And with equity, if we had non-equity people with equity people, it becomes a whole extra level of complexity and problems. So it just made sense, especially since I'm non-equity, that we were just like, we'll just do the whole thing non-equity.
So can I assume that Mrs. Claus has the best lines?
No, I actually think Mr. Christmas has some of the best lines.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd say that, non-equity actors, if they're with a solid production like ours, get paid at the same, if not better rate than they would get on an equity production. Like we pay above what an equity scale would be per show. So the point, Emma, with not using the equity rules is that you have more flexibility in terms of rehearsal, amount of time you can spend with people. There's also the things that, in addition to the payment of the actors, there's all sorts of other rules that are tied into equity contracts.
It's also all the benefits. It's the health and pension and all that stuff that you have to pay as well.
Yeah.
You have to have do you use a payroll service? I mean, you really need a payroll service if you're doing a weekly contract with equity. And that's another complication. So can you, we all are curious about this, and if it's private, you don't have to answer. What were the costs involved in both the development of the piece and the actual running costs for your piece? That's to both of you. I think everybody out there listening are wondering, can I afford to do this? This is interesting. I want to do this. Can I afford it?
I think in total, again, back in the 80s, I think in total we probably put in about 40,000 into Mooseltoe, or maybe it's closer to 50,000. The costumes were, of course, the biggest expense. And then I honestly don't know the answer to the running costs for the week. I never dealt with the money part of this. I always left that up to the other producer and the booking agent.
Oh, so the booking agent deals with that. Okay.
I would say that, like, the first year it was very minimal, because the space that we had the sound op, and we just needed someone to be oh my goodness, English would be so good if I could speak it right now, right? We needed someone to be the operator for the videos, because they get projected. So we need a projector operator to hit go on the songs. So we had that person, we had Santa who we paid, and I myself waited until the end to see what we had as a salary. So then we had the cost of the set, but that's growing every year, because with this show, we're still developing. We are doing the come from away model. We already have a tour that is booked and continuing to book for next year. We're going into bigger houses even next year. We're developing this show. Eventually, my goal is to bring it to Broadway, and I'm happy if I'm not famous enough as Mrs. Claus to stunt cast Mrs. Claus with someone fantastic. Anne Hathaway, if you're watching, we'd love to have you, and and have a great time with it. So I can't tell you what it is for this year so far. It was much more expensive than last year, because we've added more this year, and we're going to continue to add and develop. Next year we'll have a really and we just decided to bootstrap this year too, because we were also very clear when we went into this year, with it being a year that still we're dealing with COVID, that we were like, all right, if we're going to do this year, we have to be okay if it doesn't make money. This has to be a give back year. Everybody came out of the woodwork. The show did great in 2019. We made money in 2019. People need Christmas this year. I really honestly believe it. We need Christmas and to feel like Christmas is normal and okay at some level this year, and they need Santa. So we just decided we were going to do this year, no matter what, as a give back, and hope that the karma would just carry us forward for years to come. So yeah, I'll know at the end if I made money or not.
And in your live
anywhere.
In your live performances, have you been COVID conscious? I mean, you have kids, so the kids are probably not. Are the kids masked?
We go by whatever the state and theater regulations are with where we're at. We try to be super respectful, and so places that were like, nobody can take their mask off even for pictures, we're like, great, nobody can take their mask off even for pictures. That's the rule. Places that are like, little kids can take off their masks, we're like, okay, little kids could take off their masks. And I was really clear when I cast my Santas. I asked a lot of questions, because these gentlemen tend to be on the older side and they tend to be a little more heavy set. And I said, okay, I go, the whole team, our team is fully vaxxed. Our team is fully vaxxed. We're going to places, we're going to be at the mercy of what their regulations are. So are you comfortable with this? Are you not? What are your boundaries? And most of my Santas, well, all of my Santas, but even most of the Santas I talked to, even the ones I didn't cast, we're like, yeah, no, we're down. We're tired of not having a real Christmas. We understand the risks. We want to have Christmas this year. We need Christmas as much as they do this year. And I was
the only red flag is when you said that the kids rushed the stage.
Oh yeah, that was a wild time. Yeah, and that and it was Rhode Island, so Rhode Island is Rhode Island, but it was awesome. They were fantastic. It was just very exciting, but it was also dinner theater, because remember, people were eating, so masks were going on and off in that theater the whole time.
So I'm going to go through questions from the room. Judy Binus wants to know, Jim, what are the minimums and maximum width and depth of the stage your show can fit into?
Excuse me, I just wrote back to her. About 25 feet wide and about 20 feet deep. With room stage right and stage left.
And that's a minimum. So I mean, that's what the size of the set is when you install it.
Well, we need that about that much room in order, and then we need height for the Moose Mountain, because he's a big boy.
Okay, what's the height?
Well, a standard, at least 15 feet.
Okay, I know some theaters you can't use. All right.
Look, we actually did it in gymnasiums a few times and things like that. So there were times we actually couldn't even use a lot of the set, and we just put out chairs and things. And that was the great thing. The story itself held up no matter what we were able to do set wise. That's what made me really happy when we discovered that the kids were as engaged without all the bells and whistles as they were with the bells and whistles.
Before I go to the rest of the questions, because there's a bunch of questions in the chat right now, Jim, we really didn't get to the process of getting your show onto streaming musicals. How did that happen? And what is your deal with them right now? I guess you probably make some percentage out of every
right.
sale or every rental.
Right. A gentleman named Tyler Milliron, who has a video production company, who shot our show, had some connection with them, and he was showing them what he was doing for us.
You have a connection with them too, don't you know that?
And that's how it happened.
Tom Pollum is was the former chairman of the board.
Oh, Tom is great, and Anastasia is. They were so embracing of the show from the get-go, and they're trying to get it onto other vehicles as well. And the deal basically is, as you said, it's a percentage. They get a percentage, we get a percentage. And that was something we negotiated. And and we're talking about doing individual sales of the streaming, and then eventually we're talking about opening up and expanding it to larger ways of getting it booked and streamed.
Okay, well, I think that we've covered a lot. Does anybody have any questions before Stephanie? Stephanie may have to go, and let me.
Should I answer Paul's question?
Oh, Paul. Okay, what's Paul's question? Could you talk more about your use of gymnasiums, please, and what to consider in using such a stage?
The problem with gymnasiums, of course, usually is lighting and often is sound. Now, for our show, one of the great things about our show is it's all done to a pre-recorded track. So that was my initial idea of doing it that way, so we could cast almost anybody in these giant character costumes. They didn't have to necessarily be able to sing, but they had to be able to move and express themselves. So the beauty is we literally put the CD on, push play, and we've got our show.
And the audience is getting to hear Broadway stars.
Exactly.
This is crazy.
Exactly. And we have Norm Lewis is the voice of Al Roker, and again, Faith Prince and Carol Shelley and Karen Mason and Judy Kay.
And they've all given you releases on doing this.
Yeah, I basically gave them a flat fee when we first did it, and I said it was really a handshake. I said, look, if we ever make a profit, you guys will share. Now that we're finally streaming, I've gone back to all of them and said, hey, just want to let you know we're going to start streaming this, and if again we start to make a profit, you will profit share. And they were all said, hey, great, they're just sitting there. So yeah, so it's been fun.
Well, okay, so this is
great way of expanding it.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Stephanie. I think we've covered a lot.
Yes.
What?
Can I plug before I go to come see us?
Plug before you go.
Yes. Please come see Santa Sing Along at Theater Row. We start tomorrow. I've loaded in the morning. We have a 2 p.m. show. We're running at 2, 5, and 8 tomorrow. 2 p.m. on Sunday, 2 p.m. on Monday, 2, 5, and 8 on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I am Mrs. Claus at the 5 and 8 performances during the week. I'm Mrs. Claus all weekend. You'll see other lovely ladies be Mrs. Claus in the matinees during the week. But please come see us at Theater Row. You can use Claus25 as a discount code to get $25 off since you are here watching it on True and supporting True. So thank you guys all so much, and come see us.
Put your link into the chat so people can actually click for the tickets.
And I'm with Stephanie. Go to streamingmusicals.com/Mooseltoe and click on it. You can give it as a gift to kids, to anybody, or sit down with your kids, your grandkids, whatever, and watch it.
Okay, so again, streamingmusicals.com, stream as STREAMING musicals with an S at the end.com, and then Mooseltoe. Are you on the? I forget whether they're on the homepage or not, but they can always find Mooseltoe.
Yeah, on Mooseltoe.com, the link is there as well.
Mooseltoe is spelled MOOSELTOE.
Yes.
And
SantaSingAlong.com. Santa SANTA sing SINGA long LONG.com. Santa.
And no hyphens. No hyphens. It's just all one word all the way through. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. I mean, belated Happy Hanukkah and early Happy New Year. Hopefully the new year is going to be kinder to us than the last 2 years have been. I know that I got word in the chat that the shows that I said were closed for a day or two are actually closed for like a much longer time going forward. So we're being hit right in the holidays. Theater's being hit right in the holidays, and hopefully we're going to all survive and get through this. Everybody be safe. If you want to support True, you can go to TRU Online, truonline.org. Or actually, if you want to donate to us, you can go to True Donate, trudonate.com or truedonate.org. We bought both of them. And this is the end of the year. It's December. Help us go into next year healthy and stable and financially strong. So please consider donating to us, and please also support my friends and their shows. Sing along with Stephanie in the next week, and it's Mrs. Claus and the guy Santa. But it's Mrs. Claus that we really care about. There's also Santa. and Mooseltoe. You'll really be doing Jim a favor, a good turn if you go and rent or buy Mooseltoe and give it as a Christmas gift. It's a kids show. It's a great kids show. Why not give it as an unusual gift for one of the kids in your family? And Marty, good to see you. You two people, thank you for being with us. And I hope you'll join us January 7th when we come back. I think it's the 7th. Go to YouTube, subscribe if you can. That's what I want to tell you. Subscribe. If we get enough subscribers, we get all sorts of perks from YouTube. We are so far from having those perks, but if you subscribe, we might get a little closer. So thanks everybody. Thanks YouTube viewers. Thank you, my true community. Blessed, healthy, happy holiday to everyone.